devices collected in this chamber were used to facilitate the salt transportation from the exploitation site to the mine output shaft. And initially, miners used sledges like this, the first one, and then they started to use wooden carts rolled on wooden rails, so-called Hungarian dogs. And we assume that the name comes from the sound that wheels made when miners moved them on the floorboard laid on the ground. Simply similar to the dogs barking, that's why Hungarian dogs. And then in the 19th century, miners started to use railway carts pulled by horses, then battery-powered locomotives, and the last traction swans. And horses helped miners working underground since 16th century, and it was continued for the 5 next centuries. In the 18th century, even 60 horses worked underground, and after World War II, just 4 horses. The last horse left the mine in 2002. But while they were working underground, they were treated with special care, which we see in the next chamber, because there is underground stable for horses created by miners. Across these 3 first levels of the mine, and even built special communication routes just for horses to ensure their safety underground. You have to know that once abandoned animals spent entire life in the mine, entire life working here underground, and before miners set the first lift to transport horses, they used ropes, linden ropes, and they tied the horse around the cord like a baby, right? With using these ropes. And this way horses were transported down through the shaft to the first level of the mine, and then they were using the special routes to go to work at the deeper levels of our mine. Underground stables were set next to the place that horses worked, because this huge device in this part of the chamber, this is original Saxon treadmill, the horse wheel created in the 18th century, and this machine was used to transport salt to the surface, and of course was supported by the tractive power of the animal. And now have a look at the model and how it worked in the past. So, there were 4 pairs of horses in such treadmill, and the rope wrapped around the vertical cord attached to the blocks of salt that were extracted at the deeper levels and then lifted up through the small shaft to the surface. And this machine was used to transport salt to the surface and also transport wood to the underground, to the deeper levels of the mine, miners had to have wood here underground to produce, to construct all these underground so-called wooden supporting structures, right? That's why they had to have wood here underground, and this machine transported both the salt and wood. And at one time, this machine could carry 2 tons of cargo, 2 tons of blocks of salt like this, right? The main products of our mine, they weighed a lot, sometimes even 700-800 kilograms, only one of them. And miners used iron wedges and hammers to create its roll shape because what to facilitate its salt transportation, because once again, often they moved them on the football laid on the ground as well. And we are now in the heat machine, the great chamber, and this machine significantly contributed to building up the mine as the most important work. From the beginning, heat onto the mine and the revenues from the extraction and the sale of salt were about 1/3 of the state's income. But the site profiting from the mine, King orders to build 2 hospitals in Wieliczka just for miners which work in our mine, and he ordered the mining law for the first time in Poland in history in the form of the statute in 14